How are you doing? Thanks a lot for sharing all your insights and lessons. I think it's great to have you guys. I wish we had more than 5 minutes per person, but that's why we're going to squeeze in the next 30 minutes so much great content. So without further ado, so I have a list of questions that I'll address to each one of you, but any of you are welcome to chime in. If you have opinions about it, jump in. So, and then after that, we'll open up the floor for any conversations from the audience. I'm sure you have a bunch. So when I ask, does anybody have questions? I'm expecting a lot of hands just go up. So think about what you're going to ask. So to those who are new to programmatic, the best way to think of programmatic is just technology-based buying of media and advertising. So right now, the forecast is that 84% of all media is going to be bought programmatically or using technology by 2020. So my first question to Ian. With more brands still relying on agencies to execute all the media buying, and with technology playing an increasing role in just automation, media buying, advertising, how does the dynamic between agencies and brands change as technology is becoming so proliferant? And then what are some of the opportunities for both parties?
Sure. So, I think that the kind of client-agency dynamic has been changing a lot over the last kind of like 20 years, really, but it has been accelerated in the last few. I guess thinking about programmatic and technology specifically, it kind of depends on whether the technology makes things more simple, like it's kind of supposed to, or whether it kind of makes things more complex. Increasingly, I think that in general, the execution of campaigns, because of programmatic, has become a lot easier if you have access to a tool. It's not that difficult, like Yuli was saying, to kind of learn how to use those tools and kind of book campaigns. But what's become a lot more complex is the whole kind of ecosystem and things like brand safety and kind of ad fraud and how do you navigate those things. How do you choose the right DSP, DMP, all this kind of thing. So I think probably an opportunity I see for agencies is to become more strategic in their advice and probably be focusing a bit less on the execution. If brands are choosing to kind of execute campaigns in-house because they have the tools to do so, maybe the agency is better placed to help them navigate that crazy landscape that we saw with all the logos on it earlier about who are the right vendors to work with, like what does the actual overall digital strategy look like, that kind of thing. Rather than kind of continuing to try and push on the execution front, which I think is why more brands are kind of taking that just simple execution in-house. And the thing that I see kind of unfortunately a lot of brands is that they take the execution piece in-house, but then they don't necessarily have the skill sets to be able to build the strategy over the top. And that's where they come a bit unstuck. And you kind of see a lot of, it's paid search, it's like Facebook lookalike, yeah, great, but what else? How do you scale from there, and how do you build like a full kind of funnel? So I think there's probably, like I said, that could be an opportunity for agencies. On the brand side, I think the opportunities of programmatic kind of speak for themselves. I do think, it's the real sort of art of marketing, or even the science of marketing now is about reaching, the right person at the right time with the right message. And obviously, programmatic technologies have made that easier than it's kind of ever been before. I do think that it's been at the expense, to be honest, of kind of strategic marketing work. Because there's so much focus now on technology and what it can do, and these great new tools, and look at this thing we can do. And I just observe kind of in the landscape a lot less thought about positioning, kind of proper segmentation, targeting, things like that, strategic work. So I think for brands, putting more emphasis on that side of things, I think would be to their benefit.
That's great. Yuli, you have worked on the brand side for a long time, but the large brands that you worked at, pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, always had an agency. So how do you see the role of in-house teams within brands changing now that you can bring the same technology in-house as agencies?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and I hope I have a good answer for you. So it kind of goes back to Ian's point. One of the things that's got to change is things that the agency does, right? They got to be more advisors, guiding, kind of safeguarding almost whatever it is you're trying to do yourself. Now, on the flip side, what happens with with an in-house team is you got to look at it like, where's the money coming from? Like, who's funding this whole shebang, right? Like, and you got to focus on that group and provide them with customer service. And take it from me, like that group who's funding the whole thing, they don't care where you are. Do you work for this company or do you work for an agency? To them, it doesn't matter. They expect customer service. So to my experience, the best way of approaching this sort of situation is really work together with the day-to-day agency teams, so account supervisors, account directors, and service the internal organization within the brand who is the actual client who is funding this and standing right there beside them. So like if you show the unified front, people don't care like where you are because they just want customer service, they want performance, they want collaboration. Like they don't want headaches trying to figure out who's doing what because you work here or you work there. Like that creates problems. Like that's when people are like, oh, why did we do this, right? From my personal experience, like what happened was we kind of mimicked agency titles just so we don't confuse our own internal teams. And then we went to our agency friends and we said, how have you guys been doing this? Like, give us the game. Like, we don't want to come and disturb us and trying to do something, because that did happen. And we're like, this is not how you do this, right? Like, people we're servicing together, they don't give a damn who you are, where you work. Like, they just want results because they're paying you for them, right? So work together and learn from each other, really. And then over time, you realize that you kind of need each other. Like, when the brand takes things in-house, you're going to do it regardless. It's like, it's the mindset that you have towards the situation, regardless of which side of the fence you're on. Like, you can be on the agency side, you can be like, damn it, screw them, we're losing business, I hate these people. Or you can be on the brand side, and you can be like, this is my money, screw you, I'm telling you what to do. Like, a lot of that can happen, but like, the best thing to do is to do the opposite of that. So that's, yeah.
Thanks.
Just wanted to add a little bit. I think the opportunity for agencies is to actually step up their game and stop hiding behind platforms and start actually sharing and collaborating with clients on a whole new level. I think that clients also need to step up and stop hiding things from their agencies. And that's the only way we're going to get to a place where we're actually delivering fantastically strategic marketing plans that are hitting consumers that actually mean something to them. Agencies need to step up, but so do brands. I'm really lucky I work for my brand, and I'm an agency. And I think that that model, while bringing things in-house is expensive and it's messy, and a lot of people don't want to have that patience to go through the muddy water to get to the other side, that's the opportunity for agencies to step up and say, you know what? Let me be your partner. You want to see and touch and feel everything I'm doing? Then do it. Work with me, work beside me. You own your data, let me manage it for you. Let me work with you to help build your brand. That's the space that's missing.
Yeah, I think especially with the, particularly in that programmatic space where there's more and more demand for transparency because of wasted dollars and this kind of thing, I think the technology will come along to satisfy that demand, and arguably it already is, but you're right, agencies that are being transparent about the way they've been doing things and are willing to work transparently are going to win out of that. And those that have been more opaque, or there's certain layers, they're going to lose pretty bad out of that. But ultimately, the people with the dollars are demanding that kind of transparency, so it will come.
The day of reckoning is coming, trust me.
I'm not sure why I'm standing, by the way.
Join us.
Join us.
I'm just too excited. Drew, programmatic is so massive, and you, of all people, are right in the middle of all this tech innovation. Maybe you can talk to us more about some of the challenges that you're seeing in the space, and what are some of the threats that you think, unless the industry fixes in the next coming years, like what can happen potentially?
I think the number one thing we all need to do is take a look at what innovation is actually driving customer and advertiser value or helping publishers. So the core of this ad tech is full of acronyms. It's full of a constantly shifting landscape. But at the core of it, what is really helping campaigns work well and leading to a good experience on users? That's one of the main reasons we're looking at identity to such a large degree. Because from a marketing point of view, it's something you can understand. It's going to really help out. And it breaks away from cookies, which frankly are under attack. If you look at it, It is something that is being broken apart by Safari, Firefox. So a lot of the communication channels we all have from a digital point of view are getting closed in. But if we look at something like Identity that's got a partnership between publishers in terms of their information and then marketers what they have, but across programmatic so you can do it at scale, I think that's a really good step forward for industry. But the other part of this is for marketers in particular to understand what's going on. Too often as we go through all of the hype cycles that our industry loves, there isn't enough core knowledge of how this works, and taking the time to understand the innovation and be able to articulate it out to people around you. I think Yuli raises a great point. If you're in-house or if you're an agency, you've got to be able to distill all these ad tech terms down to real value. And I don't think that's happening enough, and that's on all of us. So I think events like this are great because it gives you a different view on things. But as an exchange, we'll continue to focus on innovating, be it bringing identity to video. So you can target, if you're a large media company, how do we bring that information in for better advertising in that space? But it's something that's hard. If you can't explain it in 30 seconds why it matters to your end client or to you, it's just another buzzword.
I think it's a pretty eye-opening experience, at least for people on this panel, or I speak on my behalf, to see that there's a lot of people in the audience that are not familiar with programmatic, even though, like we said, 86% of media is going to be bought programmatically. This is how things are done, which just shows that there's definitely a gap in terms of the talent and demands from a marketplace, which kind of speaks to what Yuli was saying earlier.
And one comment as well, I think it's too easy, and the Stack Adapt demo was great. I know some of my designers were here to check it out and see the work from other people in the industry. But you've got to understand where you're buying as well. The Globe and Mail is not the Globe and Mail is not the Globe and Mail. The NHL is not the NHL is not the NHL. And I think as either in agencies, they scale up their own people, or brands they bring in-house, it's understanding who you buy on and making sure you trust and understand your partnership. It's like any other part of your supply chain. You've got to do that work, and that's a step forward. And I think in Canada in particular, we do have to understand our supply sources and our partners and know more of that, because then there's a trust. You'll be safer, your brands will be safer, and everyone will work better in programmatic.
Yeah, I think there's, I was just thinking about that that kind of P&G move, where they pulling out of digital and programmatic and whatnot. I mean, I'm kind of quite an advocate for, when everyone is zigging, you zag kind of thing. And if we're sort of saying that 86% is going to be programmatically bought, I mean, I don't know. I wonder if there's like an opportunity to things like digital sponsorships or kind of, like direct buys and things like that. Maybe that actually becomes something that's more disruptive as it becomes more unusual, something that could be a good strategy to consider versus like piling into the kind of programmatic space with so much of your ad spend. Not sure. But I think it's definitely something that people should be kind of thinking about. Because I think there's an element of kind of shiny object syndrome as well, which is like what you were alluding to. And the technology moves so fast, and there's so many cool kind of different data sources you can plug in now. And oftentimes, kind of people that I encounter, and they want to use some tool, but I can say, but back it up. What's your strategy? Think about what you're trying to achieve and what you want to say, and then find the technology that enables you to do that versus, well, this technology is awesome. It changes my ad based on weather. Okay, does that speak to your product or your strategy, or is it just it's the latest thing and you'd like to use it kind of thing? So,
the one thing I want to point out, though, is that programmatic is just software. Like let's think about that. Programmatic is not a channel. It is not digital. It is not mobile. It is not native. Programmatic is software we use to purchase ad space. And so if we have tools available to us, why wouldn't we use it? It surprises me it's only 84%. If I could put 100% of my buy through an automated channel that I could target a customer, I can also buy just a website. I don't have to put any data on it. It's just a software system that allows us to connect all of our data points together. So I think programmatic, the term, the RTBs that existed 12 years ago, those acronyms, those terms, I think they need to change. I think we have to have a real conversation in our industry about what is programmatic, because it's too confusing. Guys, it's software. So more of it's going to go that way because it's a tool that makes our jobs more effective, more efficient, and it's a bigger return on investment for our advertiser friends.
The one counter argument to that is it's just software, but you've got to understand the dangers to it too, and actually understand what you're using. Because if you take a look at, let's say, Stack Adapt, if you're buying on 50 different exchange sources out there, what's the quality of each? And I think people rush out and chase the cheapest inventory too much in our industry, and they're not looking at what they're actually buying. Actually working with partners, understanding where your agency's buying, what aren't they buying on, is incredibly important. So I think all of us need to do more research there and understand the value of what they bring, and then look at what you can layer on. What's the quality of the audience list you have? Is it email address based? Is it people based, where you know it's actually the same person across everywhere? Or is it a third-party cookie list and you have no idea the quality of it? So I think there needs to be more research and understanding when you buy and how you buy and protecting yourself sufficiently.
I agree wholeheartedly, but I still think that you can take direct buys that you're buying today that are behind a wall. They're not Google's wall and they're not Facebook's wall, but they're Palmerx's wall or they're Auto Trader's wall. I can still buy all of those sites programmatically without overlaying. I can choose to buy them from the source using an ads.txt platform that allows me to understand who the proper supply source is using a tool. So I would go as far as to say that's where maybe brands need to start. Forget all the other crazy awesome stuff that we do once we get in there. You can start simply by using the tool to automate what you're already doing.
And I think we have actually seen a big shift towards deal-based spending, where it takes the traditional lovely IO, which no one loves at all, and the amount of work behind it, and finally moving to digital. I know we've been talking about this, but I think it's gone where programmatic guarantees becoming more attractive, but not everyone wants to be locked into exactly how one of the walled gardens does it. They want choice. They want to be able to try it multiple ways and experiment, A/B test, and find out what works best with their client. So I think that'll be a big shift where people don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. They want to be able to leverage that channel and move it digitally, but they want to try multiple ways and give their clients and themselves choice.
This is great. I wish we could keep going, but let's take a little bit more of a bird's eye view. So Tracy, the next question is to you. And as I was preparing this question yesterday, a news story came up about Netflix that supposedly that their machine learning or whatnot, it's misinterpreting or misrepresenting the thumbnails on Netflix, basically misrepresenting the leading cast in shows, and basically saying that the lead cast for this movie is African American, when in fact it's not at all, just to attract to that specific audience. So we're starting to see dangers of machine learning and this hyper-personalization, where a lot of the times users can think that the ads or recommended content could get almost too personalized and almost too creepy. So as a marketer, where do you find that balance between not wasting your dollars and being almost like a charity, at the same time finding a balance and make sure that it is still relevant but not creepy?
Yeah, I think everybody in this room has felt like their phone is listening to them and the next ad that they see shows up. But I promise you it's not exactly like what's happening. I think at the end of the day, as marketers get smarter, a one-to-one still doesn't belong in the open space. I believe there's still channels for that, whether that's email marketing, whether that's some direct correspondence between two people, between a brand and a person. I think that the creepy factor comes in because we're just so much more aware of what's happening around us. I think half of the time we think something's creepy, and it should be creepy because it's retargeting in some capacity. But the other fact is you just are in market for something, and you're now suddenly more aware of it. And I think that that's the danger. So where I see improvement happening is within the industry taking a stand and saying, hey guys, there's this ad choices program. You can opt out of behavioral advertising. And I think a lot of consumers don't even know that that's an option for them. So OBA has to get a lot better at talking about what the options are as consumers in regards to what data we share and what data is allowed to be targeted or not targeted. And I think marketers as well as publishers are equally responsible for that task.
I think related to the OBA is getting consent. If you look at it, it's not creepy if you allow it. Like the lady from McDonald's, if you sign up for the app and suddenly get free fries, that's okay because you signed up for it, you gave consent. And I think that's a lot of the work we're doing around people-based advertising. It's okay if we freely give it. I think I went through GDPR. We're going to have a Canadian equivalent at some point as well. But at the end of the day, a lot of pubs and brands learn that if you actually ask your users permission for the use of the data or explain what you're doing, then it's okay. And I think that's where we need to get to to have much more hyper-targeted ads without causing an issue.
I think a lot of people have given consent that they don't know they've given, and they still think it's creepy. And I think that's where GDPR comes in, is it's not the opportunity to opt out, it's I have to opt in and I'm allowed to opt out. You know, that we change our preferences, and I think that that has to come out. I think there has to be a big, broader campaign in that consumers understand what their rights are. And then they're gonna understand, okay, maybe this ad isn't creepy because it's important to me and I should go buy those shoes.
Yuli, Yuli, when you planning your marketing initiatives, to which extent do you think of delivery mechanism in kind of addressing this point of hyper personalization? Is that like, to which extent do you think of, you know, is retargeting done enough or too much? Is it more kind of a gut feel? How do you judge that?
Down to the tactic, I mean, you have to have an understanding of what your threshold for cost of acquisition of that user is, right? And you just max out all your tactics to that, really. Like, some be able to scale, some you will not be able to scale, but if you have a CPA threshold, cost per acquisition threshold, and you know how many digital ad units you need to move, like, that's the math, right? And you use the tools, you use the automated media purchasing bidding platforms to help you acquire the users digitally, right? And that's like, if you want to take it a step back, I am a huge fan of automated media buying, which is programmatic. And exactly what Tracy said, I would buy anything and everything, and yeah, 100% through that method of online user acquisition, on way of showing ads to people, all automated through a platform, using machine, using a data management platform, using you know what we call data, and data is like basically things you know about people that you want to show your ads to. Like, that's what data means, right? So when you hear people say data, what do we know about people we want to show our ads to? Like, that's all it is. So using signals, you know, things that I know about people I want to target, I use an automated media buyer platform and show them banners, videos, mobile, blah 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 blah. You know, yeah.
And the creepy factor goes away when you actually bring in suppression and velocity, right? Because exactly what Yuli's talking about. You have, this is my goal, and I keep scaling to that goal, and then there's a point of diminishing returns, and that's when the creepy factor comes in, because you've hit somebody too many times and they really don't want to see it anymore, and that's where the suppression rule can come in.
I have another question about kind of the rise of Amazon. I don't remember who mentioned Amazon, but yeah, I mean, Amazon is playing increasingly a growing role in the advertising as a channel. Everybody thought of Google and Facebook as a duopoly until a couple of years ago, when Amazon just really rise to prominence as a probably third contender to be the biggest ad tech player. So Yuli, how do brands see this? How do they find a balance between consolidation, optimizing costs, and at the same time experimenting with new channels that come out? I imagine those come out pretty often.
So that does come up. It's not brand's specialty most of the time to kind of decide around those things, and that's where agency partnership kind of comes in handy. You got to go to the people that use these things every day across multiple brands, multiple clients. And my recommendation to every brand, to have your media buying agency or some sort of media buying partner as a part of decision making, right? Like, you want to tell people who know what they're doing with that platform. This is me, this is my business, these are my goals, these are these are the things I want to achieve with this budget. You use all these platforms, what do you think? So that, to me, that's the first logical step. And when I was agency, that's what I provided. And when I was brand, that's one of the things I asked for off my agency. Like, you know, on the brand side, I had the agency experience, but I wasn't, on that side of the fence, you're not paid to go explore digital marketing platforms. Like, your salary is for other things. So if there's somebody that is being paid to do that, in which case is your agency partner, like, just go and ask them, like, scope, like, this is my scope, should I or should I not do this? What do you think? That should always be the first step. So
I think it's up to agencies as well to kind of reflect the demand for that kind of service in their offerings as well. Like, you know, what I'm doing at Colt, we do it quite flexibly, where some clients need the help with execution. So, we'll do that, execute the digital media, and also do the strategy. We do it very well. But, there's other clients where they're kind of like, no, I've got some people in-house who are executing on my platforms for me. What I'm struggling with is like, what are the channels, or how do I tie it all together? And for that, it's, I'm happy to offer that as kind of like a consultancy service. I think a lot of agencies are kind of like, well, no, I mean, you either execute with us or that's it. There's no kind of consultancy offering. But increasingly, to your point, that's what brands are looking for.
There is actually no model that Ian just described, so you're a trailblazer, my friend.
Thank you.
Woot.
And so my last question would be probably addressing what we alluded to, is that there's a big gap between what the industry and companies demand for and what universities produce in terms of the talent. So if you were to give one advice to people who are early on in their career or trying to get into programmatic, what would that advice be?
Sorry. Let me just jump in before this thought escapes me. So some schools do teach this sort of thing. The big flaw with school around digital marketing is, unless you put in real dollars into a real campaign with real ads and real targeting and real data set, and you spend that money showing ads to people, looking at analytics and making optimizational strategy conclusions, you will not do that in school, because unfortunately school is not going to dump thousands of dollars so you can run some banners online. So my advice to you is go ahead and do that yourself. Basically, go ahead and do that yourself. And you should take these things in school, absolutely, because strategy, top-level strategy, and how things come together, that is good to know, but technical know-how and understanding how that ties together, just go and do that yourself in conjunction with the schooling that you might be taking.
So I can't agree more. I think being tenacious, being patient, this kind of role requires you working more than 9 to 5. It requires personal growth and personal investment in your growth, and it's constant. It doesn't stop. I learn something new every day, and that's actually why I love this job. I love programmatic. I love this space. And I think if you have a passion for it, that's when you're going to be successful. So, it's not just about going and getting a job in a media agency. I think it's about exactly what Yuli said. It's taking your own time and going and learning the tools yourself, because they're free. And you can, and then you can actually feel a little bit more confident every step that you take.
The one thing I'd correct on that, and I think if we're looking at encouraging more skills within people new to the industry, it's not taking our own time, it's setting an environment where they're taking time at work to learn. Like, one of the best things is make sure people carve out time to read every single day. The minute you stop learning about programmatic, your skills get old. So I think it behooves all of us to have a culture where you want people to invest time every single day, even if they're in a billable hours point of view, because they're more valuable to themselves, they're more valuable to your firm, and not enough as they're doing that. Like, I've chatted with enough marketers within the past couple of months to know that they're not current on the issues, but we've got to get that going with our own companies and encourage it, and recognize people really put the time into reading and staying sharp, because they'll be your most valuable employees.
Yeah, I think for younger people in the industry, this is actually a really kind of key issue. Because the kind of technology landscape has become so much more fragmented, it's a full-time job staying on top of all this kind of stuff. Simultaneously, kind of seeing, like, with programmatic and automation, it feels more and more kind of AI is doing the job of kind of the media ad buying. And I think about something like universal app campaigns in Google, where like they changed that so it's literally upload the creative, set the CPA, and it goes kind of thing. So if that kind of trend continues, and obviously AI is getting more intelligent all the time, I think for younger people, my advice is always kind of try and cultivate the marketing skills that might not be the most fashionable today, but there are things that are going to be really hard for AI to kind of automate. So it's more of that kind of strategic kind of thinking, positioning, uniqueness, differentiation, like, I guess more sort of like on the brand side of things, because I think that we're producing a lot of really smart young kind of marketers who are awesome in the platforms, but they haven't been trained, or they haven't been encouraged to kind of think about marketing as a broad discipline. I sort of talk about the T-shaped marketer, where you need to, it's a bit like what Yuli was saying, you need to be au fait with so many things, but the kind of stem of the T, I think that should be that strategic, that stuff that's like hard to be automated, that will always require well, maybe always require.
Let's ask everybody a quick question. How many of you have been in digital marketing for less than 2 years? How about less than 5 years? Okay, so my advice to you guys is don't try to keep a deep level of experience or expertise. Breadth is what matters. Be digital marketer. Don't be a search person. Don't be a programmatic person. Don't be a social media person. Don't be an email person. Be a digital marketer. And if you keep building that, you can go far.
You actually said something on your slide, which is, talk to your teammates. You work in a company where there's a lot of people who are probably really smart and they have something to teach you. So cross-department brainstorming, cross-department learning is key and vital to growing. And that's how you do it, I think, on company time, where it's a little more feasible.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, this is the time to ask questions. So I'll probably run around, and whoever has any questions, or maybe somebody will do it. Thank you.
Hi there, guys. That was a great panel. Ian, you touched on this a lot, and I just wanted to get everyone's opinion, including yours, Vitaly, as we get to more and more automated platforms, how do you advise your brands to stand out in the place? Like, other than, shouting louder, aka spending more money than the next person. With all this automation, what advice do you give to the brands and the clients that you work with on how to separate themselves and really stand out against their competitive landscape in programmatic?
Would you like me to answer that, or I can give a quick opinion on that. Honestly, I think it's kind of like good old-fashioned differentiation. The thing about programmatic is, like I kind of touched on before, just to demonstrate by way of simple example, travel company A knows that I'm interested in going to Vegas next month. That almost every month I'm interested in going to Vegas, actually.
Due to the good ads encouraging you to go to Vegas,
That's right. But travel company B probably know the same thing. So while it's really smart that we can kind of run ads that are kind of, book your room in Vegas because I know that's what you're interested in, I think a lot of the time we're so focused on the technology and what it can do with personalization that we forget that there's a brand behind all this. Why am I going to book it through Expedia versus Priceline versus something else? So I think a lot of the way to kind of stand out when everyone is being hyper-personalized and everyone is being really smart is to have a brand that stands for something, that resonates with a certain segment.
Yeah, I think for me, it always starts with solving customer problem and really focusing on like what is the value that you deliver at the end of the day. And then how you deliver, it's obviously there's many different ways to distribute it, while programmatic being one of the channels. But one of the main differentiators in my head is always how can we dig deeper than anybody of our competitors into the challenges that our customers has and really show that we understand their problems and here's how we can solve it for them.
If I can just add to that, I think the blend of both of what you guys are talking about is the art of marketing. And I think that's still incredibly important, and that's not what automation can get, and that's not what machine learning can get. And we still need humans to develop that art form inside our digital media.
Absolutely.
Thank you. From a B2B, purely B2B perspective, why should a B2B marketer leave LinkedIn because of the way because of the capabilities on LinkedIn for sponsored content ads, and get out of LinkedIn and use programmatic ads, whereas on LinkedIn you can reach your target audience purely from a B2B perspective relatively effectively. Why should he or she get out of LinkedIn and launch or basically focus on programmatic or native advertising?
I think from a tech point of view and just from a core marketing point of view, you want to reach your audience across many channels in many different environments in different lean back modes. And getting out of away, this is why you don't just do search. If you want to get away from LinkedIn, if you look at people-based advertising where you can still do hyper-targeting, you reach them while reading the Globe, or reading a travel magazine about anything about going to Vegas, you're going to reach them at multiple touch points and move them down the funnel. You don't want to only catch your audience just on LinkedIn. Yes, they've got great targeting into businesses, but if that's your only bet, it's a pretty short channel, and you've got to look at how to progress them down in multiple ways and maybe draw them back to something else. The minute you're locked into one tech vendor or one channel partner only, the moment they pivot is the moment all your plans go up in smoke. So you got to have balance. That's why on the index side, we really look at being the complementary alternative to the different walled gardens and giving people choice so people can try different things.
Thank you.
And it boils down to kind of the point at which you're reaching the user in their purchase funnel, right? In LinkedIn, it's more of a self-declared job, age, school, whereas, for example, with AdWords, you're looking for people who are actively looking for a specific company. Right now, I'm experimenting with Quora to see if I can find people who are maybe researching topics relevant to our company. So I think different channels rank differently on kind of purchase intent, and that's why doing just LinkedIn, I don't think it solves for being able to capture people in the moment of purchase.
Just to add one more point, I don't think you have to choose one or the other. I think what you're looking for is the right mix. You want to reach consumers, or you want to reach your B2B customers in that environment. The second step is you want to reach them when they're not thinking that way. And now you're passively grabbing their attention in a way that's different than you did the first time.
LinkedIn is also quite expensive. I mean, like, fair play to LinkedIn. I mean, I run quite a few campaigns on there for B2B clients, and we have great success. I mean, obviously, B2B have a totally different tolerance for cost per click and stuff, but yeah, it is expensive. So, I mean, that's one reason to think about mixing it up.
Well, I think we're out of time. I think at this point, if you guys have any questions, you can stalk the panelists or myself.
That got awkward quickly.
You can meet them after the event. You can stalk me.
Stalk him.
Thank you so much. This was so valuable, and I really appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks,
so
guys.
before you all go, there is a button that you will see, and it's called Press and Express. So if you like the event, hit the button. Any comments or any feedback, we're very much value. Next event is happening in December, so we'll keep you posted.